When I was growing up, I was never exposed to the idea of taking care of my mental health. In my schooling years, we were taught the importance of physical health, but no one ever mentioned the term mental health. The extent of my knowledge was to know that the Institute of Mental Health in Singapore was where crazy people would go to. And back then, I understood crazy to be a negative thing and had associated mental health to mean crazy for a very long time. Never in my adolescence and teenage years did it ever cross my mind that I have mental health issues. When I was 6 years old, I vividly remember writing 4 words on little pieces of paper. I wrote, "I want to die." I'll fold them into tiny squares and tuck them in a little plastic container at the very side of my desk at home. One day, I came back from school and I saw these pieces of paper scattered all around the dining table. It hit me really fast that my mom had discovered my treasure chest. My parents started questioning me about the existence of these notes, and I remember feeling really small at that time. I felt horrible for writing those words, and I thought of myself as a bad kid. They made me promise to never write such words again. And just like how I tucked those notes in a very little corner of my desk, that issue was tucked into a very dark corner of my household and was never ever brought up again. Seeing that no one truly addressed the state of my mental psyche as a young child, my suicidal thoughts and bouts of depression did not stop. However, there was that one time in secondary school when I opened up to a trusted teacher. She was one who constantly checked in on me and was genuinely concerned about me. Conversations always started with, "How are you doing, Cheryl?" That morning, after I told her that I had almost taken my life the night before, I gave her my word that I'll never end my life. However, that promise did not stop my suicidal thoughts from coming back. Till today, thoughts of ending my life still come back to me. Sometimes they come as fleeting thoughts and sensations that are easier for me to overcome. And then there are times when I feel like I'm completely broken apart and inflicting harm to myself would be the only way out to escape from this internal pain that feels excruciating and unbearable. Coupled with my low self-esteem, these dark moments constantly feed me with unrealistic and illogical phrases like, "No one loves me, and it's better for everyone that I'm not in their lives." Somewhere in me truly believes that I am the cause of everyone's misery. All of these are the huge barriers that prevent me from reaching out for help and support. The World Health Organization's constitution states that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. This is crucial to our understanding that mental health doesn't just mean mental illness, but it governs the way we think, feel, and act in the world. When we are feeling low and depleted, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have a mental illness, but we could indeed be having a mental distress. In 2011, I finally felt the need to change something in my life. The walls of my one-bedroom apartment in Vancouver felt like they were closing in on me, and I made the bold decision to move east and to try find safety in Toronto. My good friend asked me, "Cheryl, you just keep running and running, and you never seem to settle or find ground. What will you do different in Toronto?" And at that point, it almost seemed like a joke, but I just said, "I really have no idea, but I'll turn to practice yoga and hope for the best." So, I'm not saying that yoga is for everyone or is a way to realization of any sort. In my experience, it has been a combination of meeting the right people and having the open mindset to receive or to reject philosophies that will help me make sense of the way I view the world. I've learned to understand that yoga isn't just about a physical practice, but it's about how I am in a relationship with myself, people around me, and the world. When I started seeing a therapist in 2012, one of the first things we worked on was for me to find that inner strength and courage to ask for help. I started understanding the need to have mental resilience and the important role it plays in keeping me safe, especially in those dark moments. We started by identifying the reasons why I would feel unloved or unwanted, and worked on building and strengthening mental muscles like the courage to feel love and my right to exist in this world. Similar to finding the right physical activity for one to feel physically fit, I had to experiment with different techniques that will allow me to continually build mental muscles that help me show up in my daily life as a more compassionate and empathetic individual. I utilize different techniques at different points in my life, and they sort of form this self-care kit that can take anywhere with me at any point in time. So, what do I currently have in my self-care kit? Number 1, I have a daily yoga and meditation practice. It doesn't matter if I practice for just 5 minutes or 2 hours, but it's really important for me to roll up my mat and to find that space and time to find stillness, strength, and softness in my physical and mental bodies. Number 2, physical activity. Being active is a huge part of my life, but the activities have always been different. I went from rollerblading to wakeboarding to snowboarding and hiking, and currently cycling and rock climbing. Perhaps I do gear towards more extreme sports, but it's also because it gives me this great spark and adrenaline, which is my greatest source of feeling free and whole at the very same time. Number 3, boundaries. Therapy made me realize that I had no concept of boundaries. I was always there whenever my friends or family needed me, regardless of how I was feeling at that point in time. To me, it was always others before self. But I knew that I was resenting my family and my friends because I didn't want to be there for them. But there was a huge part of me that felt really bad because they needed me, didn't they? I wanted to be needed, but at the same time, I needed my own space to recalibrate. It's taken me years of work to really establish proper boundaries for myself and to find the strength to tell people that I cannot show up for them because I needed to take care of myself first. Number 4, a calendar and bullet journal. These are essential items to help me manage my time. As an executive director of a nonprofit organization, it is easy for me to constantly fill my calendar with to-do items and be flustered when I can't find the time for self-care or to finish my tasks. However, it wasn't until last year that I realized that I needed the mornings to practice and to work on essential tasks, and the afternoons could be saved for meetings. With these time management tools, I've learned to space out tasks and to be more realistic with my time. And so, in other words, I've realized that none of us, not you nor I, have the superpower to achieve infinite amounts of time. Number 5, letters and notes from close friends. Especially in those moments when I want to inflict self-harm upon myself, both mentally and physically, I try to remember that I have this stash of notes from my close friends. That one Christmas, I asked my friends for a special present, to write me a letter that I read in my darkest moments. Because I'm so used to beating myself up, I found it necessary to let the words of my friends draw me back to reality. And there have been many instances where I felt like running away again, but I chose to turn to these notes, which always serve as a reminder that I am loved and appreciated by people. These reminders allow me to find strength and courage to then reach out for help. And lastly, number 6, therapy. I have a weekly date with my therapist. This allows me to let go of any baggage or bottled up thoughts or feelings that I can't quite share with my friends, family, or partner. It gives me the opportunity to make sense of my emotional and mental state, and also keeps me accountable for my own mental health. As the executive director of the Singapore Mental Health Film Festival, I still live with depression, anxiety, and suicidal tendencies. But I wouldn't call myself weak-minded, but instead, I have learned to acknowledge the immense amount of strength and courage it takes for me to practice daily self-care so that I can live an intentional life. Building a self-care kit or routine requires self-discipline and commitment. It also requires flexibility instead of rigidity, because there are things that may work today which may not work tomorrow. Self-care gives us that opportunity to continually explore and discover new or old ways that will help us feel grounded and safe in our bodies. Taking care of our mental health doesn't mean that we're weak-minded or have a mental disorder. Taking care of our mental health is part of our human existence. It allows us to show up and be present in our everyday lives. It gives us its strength to say yes or no to things or people depending on the situation. It also gives us that courage to ask for help and support when we need it, and to notice signs of mental distress before they become acute and overwhelming. To close, to quote the World Health Organization, mental health is an integral part of health indeed. There's no health without mental health. My hope for everyone, young and old alike, will be to understand the importance of mental health and to take necessary measures to perform regular self-care. Thank you.